There's a saying by satire that goes something like, freedom is what you do with what is done to you. So this here story is my story. It's about what I pulled out of all of this mess I've been through. It's a story of who I did become, of what I am. A few years ago, I worked at a car dealership for new and used cars. I was 33 at the time and was doing well at my job, that I eventually became the top salesperson and one of the most respected people there. There was also a woman named Chloe who worked as an administrative assistant for the company. Beautiful, tall, looked like a black and Hispanic Drew Barrymore, and I think I fell in love with her beauty. But at first, we were just really good friends. You know, the kind of friend who you have long, deep conversations about life, thoughts, religious beliefs. We even talked about more personal things like sex. We talked about everything. And she really listened to me, you know? And she really did listen to me, you know? She spoke so highly of me to her friends and family. I think she even tried to set me up on a date with her cousin because every time I asked her for her number, she gave me her cousin's number instead. Anyway, we were just goofing around at work. We were friends and that was it. And to be honest with you, I wasn't interested in her cousin. At the end of the day, I was very focused on my own things. The itch to go on my own started to bug me. I wanted to start my own business and everything. I went to business school, but I never graduated. However, I did quit my job at the dealership. I remember the day very well. February 8th, 2018. It was a Thursday. My shift ended, and since then, I haven't worked for anyone else, only for my dreams. It hurt a bit to say goodbye to Chloe, but I never thought anything romantic would happen between us. Maybe we could spend a few nights together, but I knew I wasn't going to become the love of her life. And she might not be mine either. Remember my Sally? The love of my life I told you about a few chapters back? She was already married to another man. I was shattered, but I was trying to move on from all of that. I started working for Uber to make money, while spending as much time as possible going to therapy, hitting the gym, practicing, and my singing game. I dedicated almost 40 hours a week to singing because my dream was to become a famous singer, and I was sure I would make it. But the only thing holding me back was myself, so I knew I had to fix everything that was wrong in my head first. I spent 2 long years doing that, practicing singing and going to therapy. I was basically tearing myself apart and putting myself back together again. But it was worth it because I'm finally in the best shape of my life. 120 pounds lighter, and my voice is ready to audition for The Voice. The audition was on June 30th, 2019, and the night before, I almost died in the fire that burned down my house. I lost everything. What a coincidence, right? I still don't know if it was an accident or if it was on purpose. I had the worst roommates. One of them threatened me with a knife, and the other, a girl, tried to cheat on her boyfriend with me while he was sleeping in the next room. I ain't the kind of guy I respect bro code. And not only did I lose my house, but I lost my shot at The Voice. Needless to say, I didn't have anyone to depend on at that point, so I had to crash at a homeless shelter for 3 months until I recovered and got back on my feet. In October, I moved into the psycho's house that I met on Craigslist. But I already told you about that wild story in a previous chapter. Go back and check it out if you missed, because believe me, I lived it. And I still can't believe that I almost got killed by a landlord who thought he was Jeffrey Dahmer, dude. Putting that nightmare aside for a bit, I spent the summer drinking and singing. I loved every second of it. I had nothing to lose. Went to karaoke almost every night and had women waiting to meet me after getting off stage. I felt like I was taking over the world. Eventually, Chloe heard me sing. And ain't nobody looked at me like that since Lauren, my Sally. I think this is the first time I'm saying her name here. Anyway, I sang Love on the Brain. Imagine a 6'2", 6'3" black man hitting them high notes, and the ladies went crazy. I got off stage and ran straight to Chloe, ignoring her. Almost like a reflex, Chloe grabbed her boyfriend and pushed him towards me before I could even talk to her. The silly reaction made me realize that girl had something for me. I laughed it off and didn't care, kept it moving and spent time with the other 20 girls waiting for me. I just knew it wasn't the right timing, but I couldn't shake Chloe off my mind, man. At this point, I think I had fallen in love with her. Then the pandemic hit, and those small places closed down. I saw her randomly at the park when I was doing yoga on the hill after practicing karate. She would talk to me and say hi, but it never got any closer than 6 feet apart. I knew she was in a relationship, and believe me, I tried to respect her. But at the same time, I felt like she needed to see that it wasn't going anywhere with him. That was the last time I saw her, and then I ended up getting COVID. 2 years prior, I had decided not to take any medication. If I ever got sick again, And the only sickness that came was that. I was sick with COVID for almost a month until both my body and I was sick with COVID for almost a month until my body just healed itself. And when my body finally accepted that I was feeling better, I went to the park to do some yoga after class. And who did I see in the distance? This tall woman with reddish skin, curly hair, and a spectacular body. It was Chloe, sitting in a tree talking on the phone. I stopped class and went straight to her. She told me that she was talking to her grandma on the phone and gave me her number. I was ecstatic. I have never been so hyped about getting a girl's number before. I was looking like a straight up love-struck fool. I called her up and she told me that she had broken up with her boyfriend and needed some time. And I understood, but then out of nowhere she started ghosting me. So I backed off, and she hit me up with random texts, and I respond, but then she wouldn't answer back. I kept my distance, knowing she needed space. But this whole disappearing act wasn't my thing, man. I didn't like it. Eventually, after being completely ignored for weeks, I sent her a text message telling her how I felt about her. I made a promise to always be honest about my feelings in these situations. Ever since I was young, I regretted not telling girls how I felt, so I do it now, no matter the consequence. The text read something like, "Chloe, my intention with you is to be married in 2 years. You mean a lot to me, and I know you feel the same. I know I'll be a millionaire soon, and I want you by my side to share it with me. I want to help you become the best news anchor woman because I know it's your dream. I would love to grow old together, hold hands, and taking our grandkids out for ice cream. I know I'm going to the top and I want you to climb with me. I would prefer to tell you this in person, but whatever you're going through, please take your time before responding. And if you don't feel the same way, just ignore this message. But I wouldn't feel right if I didn't tell you before trying to move on." Her response was a simple response. "Were you drunk when you sent?" I told her I wasn't drunk, that I was speaking soberly and seriously, and she just answered me that she needed time to think about it. I didn't hear from her again until about 8 hours later when she responded around 9 p.m. She said, "I never liked you. I don't know where you got that from." Naturally, I was very angry. Was it all in my head? I asked her why she hadn't just left me alone and that she didn't have to keep responding to me. She apologized, but I told her I didn't believe her. Then she said, "I'm sorry, I never felt anything." Stunned, I asked her if I have ever mattered to her, and she said no, that I had never mattered to her. I lost my head a little bit and called her a liar. I assaulted her and told her to say it to my face. She was scared, asking me to calm down and stop talking to her. Like, she asked me if I could come to her house to talk about this. "Talk about what?" I said. "If you said you don't have any feelings for me, if you don't feel anything, then what is there to talk about?" She tried to take it back, but it wasn't enough. I had enough of being lied to. I had enough. At this point, I was crying in shock, too embarrassed to see her or talk to her again. That night I cried nonstop for 5 hours with a running nose and swollen eyes. It wasn't just because of her, but it was because of everything that had happened. I skipped all that shit that needed to go out. I tried to bounce back. I accepted the rejection, but we were supposed to still be friends. A few weeks later, I was still driving for Uber when a girl committed suicide, and I was one of the last people she spoke to. I told Chloe about it, and she distanced herself even more. The last text I sent her was, "I think you're a wonderful person. I didn't cry for 5 hours just because of you. I didn't get angry at your rejection either. It just messed me up. I see energy on different scales. I've been concerned about you for a long time. Messed me up. I see energy on different scales. I've been concerned about you for a long time. I'm not in love. My intuition shows me that we'll fall madly in love with each other." I deleted her number and kept my word. After that, I started receiving 20 phone calls a week. No one spoke. They just hung up. I thought it was her. But when I finally returned the calls, It seemed like it wasn't her. That made me even sadder. I really hoped that she would apologize and tell me how she truly felt, but I never received that message or phone call. The room had fallen silent, and after making a fool of myself with Chloe, I was tired of everyone looking at me with envy and comparing me to someone else. I wanted to be invisible. I didn't want anyone to see me or to try to take advantage of me. So I started neglecting my body, stopped going to yoga, stopped working out. I started eating junk food and drinking until I passed out, eating too much weight. Almost 20 years later, for the first time, I stopped recognizing myself in the mirror. Now, I was so ashamed of how I looked that I couldn't even look at myself. And you know what? I was happy. No malicious comments, no random comments or ugly glances. I was invisible. Almost 500 pounds. Now the same people that used to envy me had all the ammo they needed. I was damned if I didn't, damned if I did. My life had been on a roller coaster and I finally wanted stability, but God still had different plans for me. He always had. There's a saying